For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's 80-62 loss to Colorado in Boulder. Shotgun, this is the sixth consecutive win for the Buffaloes over the Trojans. Does Colorado have USC's number at this point?
You gotta kind of give them that credit right now, because when you win, six straight over, I believe it's 3 or 4 years now in a row where they've been able to beat, and obviously part of that is that there's a little bit of a rivalry between Tad Boyle and Andy Enfield. Those two don't like each other too much, so they go at each other a lot. And the fact that Colorado has been able to win six straight says a lot, with the fact that Andy Enfield's going to really work to get his team up because they just don't really like each other because of some comments that were made after the FBI investigation back and forth. So Colorado has done a terrific job. They were really well prepared for USC. They really did a good job of forcing, a good job of denying the wings so that USC couldn't really initiate their offense. They were able to get any shot that they wanted. Part of that's McKinley Wright. He was fantastic for them at the point guard position. 15 points, 14 assists. But give a lot of credit to Colorado for what they've been able to do against USC. They dominated at the end of the half. Now, I'm not talking about the first half. I'm not talking about the second half of this game. I'm talking about every single half so far this season. All four halves, Colorado has dominated at the end of the halves. USC, it was kind of deja vu in the first half because, Colorado got out to an early lead. USC goes on a little bit of a run to get back into it, one possession game. And then suddenly Colorado goes on a run at the end of the half and kind of pulls away and has a double-digit lead at halftime. And USC is trying to fight and claw to get back in it. They get it down to 10 points. It'd been up to, I think, 18 at one point early in the second half. They get it down to 10 points with about 4.5 minutes to go, but really couldn't hit another shot after that for USC. So Colorado wins the game, I think, an 11-3 run to finish this one off. So once again, another strong finish to the half for the Buffaloes.
So taking in the last three games for the Trojans, they lost to Arizona at home, but they came back, had a bounce-back win against Oregon. I know we read a lot into that game. How were the Trojans going to respond? But then they come to Boulder, and they drop this one to Colorado. What do you make of this team in this final stretch?
I'm a lot more concerned about that Arizona loss than I am this Colorado loss. The Arizona loss, they got beat because of effort. They got beat on those 50-50 balls. They got beat on the rebounds. They got the ball taken away from them. They weren't physical enough. That was all. It was kind of a heart game. They got beat. They didn't have enough heart in that game. This game against Colorado, not as concerned about it in that regard. Colorado was just on fire. Now, USC could have done a little bit better job of defending. Andy Enfield said maybe I should have played more zone against them because of their three-point shooting. They shot 55% from the three-point line. It's only the second team so far this season that shot 50%, and only the third team this season that's made at least 10 three-pointers against USC. They won the other two games. Those against the two overtime games that they had earlier in the season. But, I take away from this game less than I do those last two games, just because I think you ran into a really hot team at home. And USC wasn't shooting the ball really well. And part of that is the altitude. I know it's a crutch to say, oh, you go up and you play in the altitude, it's different. But you could tell early in the game, especially, they started 3 of 13, and several of those misses were short. They just didn't have the legs, hadn't made that adjustment yet playing. I think it took them a little bit of time, and they fell into a hole, and it just kind of snowballed them a little bit on them there. So I'm not taking too much away from this loss. Colorado's a solid team. There's a reason why they're, one of the top net teams as well in the Pac-12, top 20 in the net rankings coming in. They're going to be an NCAA tournament team. USC just didn't play great in this game. They could do things better, yes, but it wasn't that they were getting out-hustled and outworked like they were in the Arizona game. So not as concerned from that standpoint. Now, they got to bounce back. They got to play at Utah. Again, you're going to be at altitude. And this is why this is the toughest road trip in the Pac-12, because it's not only that you're going to altitude, but you fly to Boulder, you fly into Denver, go out to Boulder, then you get back on a plane, go to Salt Lake City. And so you're up and down, basically, with the flights and everything. And it's, a 2-day turnaround. So that's what makes it so tough. And both those teams play really well at home. And part of that is, the altitude acclimatization that they have. So I think that USC they've got to bounce back from this. They got to kind of throw this one away, put it in the trash and say, okay, maybe we'll get a shot at them in the Pac-12 tournament, but if they want to try a chance at winning the Pac-12 regular season title, they got to put this one behind them and go win at Utah.
That's what I was going to ask you, Shotgun. I know the Pac-12 standings are neck and neck. What does this loss mean for the race?
Yeah, USC, they fall a half game back at UCLA, who won at Utah. They won by 15 points there, took care of business for the Bruins. So they move back in front. And USC's lost they had built a little bit of a buffer between the Los Angeles schools and everyone else. Now you got Colorado, you got Oregon. They're both 2 games back. Now Colorado's going to have some help. They've got 6 losses in conference. If USC wins out, then they'll be the Pac-12 champion. But they got to take care of business. And this allows those teams to come a little bit closer. Oregon's back in the race a little bit now at 2 games back versus being 2.5 coming in the night. So I think this is an opportunity for the other teams to kind of get a little bit closer. So USC lose a little bit of that buffer, but they're not in first place anymore. They go from being the prey to now they're the predator. They have the target on their back. Now they've got to jump back into it and be the team that, kind of attacks and goes and tries to win this conference back rather than, trying to, be cautious and keep everyone behind them. Now they've got to go and be super aggressive and try to win these next 3 games to get that regular season title.
You mentioned it already, but looking ahead at Utah, what are you looking for in this game? And is it a must win for the Trojans?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. It's a must win because you want to be in that mix with UCLA. You want to keep up with them, and hey, maybe they lose to Colorado as well. Colorado, like I said, is a tough place to play. We'll see what the Bruins can do on Saturday as well, and so maybe you can jump back ahead. But also, as far as their seed line, they're hanging on to that 4 seed right now, maybe a 5 seed. You want to boost yourself back up. Would have been a big win against Colorado because now you fall to 3-2 in quad 1 games. Could have got an extra win there to kind of boost that resume. Miss out on that opportunity. But Utah has become a resume deflator. They're below 500 now. They've lost 4 games in a row. They just have not played very well. And USC was able to dominate them defensively the last game. They've got to do that again. They've got 2 guys that are really the key to it, Timmy Allen and Alfonso Plummer. USC held them to 5 of 25 the last time they played and held both of them to, I think, combined 12 points when both of them average, I think it's 14 and 17 or something like that. So, if they can control those 2 guys, they'll control the game once again. But it starts with the defense. They got to play better defense than they have the last couple of games. They started great against Oregon, but Oregon was able to shoot pretty well in the second half of that game. Arizona obviously was able to bully them down low, and then Colorado. So USC they need to start getting ready to make that run towards the NCAA tournament. So there's 2 weeks basically left. You got the final week of the regular season starting on Saturday. You got 8 days left in the regular season. You got the Pac-12 tournament. The NCAA tournament starts. So, this is when you want to start building momentum. And 2 of the last 3 games, losing them, this is the time when they need to turn things around. So I think it's a must win to go to Utah and take care of business.
Makes sense. Alrighty, Shotgun, any final thoughts from tonight's loss for the Trojans?
No, I think, like I said, I think it's just a hot team. Jariah Horn was fantastic for Colorado, 24 points, tied his season high, and McKinley Wright really controlled the tempo and the pace of the game, and won that point guard matchup with Ethan Anderson. So I think that was a big deal in this one. They were jawing back and forth, and that was an opportunity. If USC could win that point guard matchup in the Pac-12, that oftentimes has been the determining factor. They weren't able to do it against Colorado and McKinley Wright.
Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for USC's 80-62 loss to Colorado. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.